Kobe, starting with you, how does Vips need to carry himself now that he's coming out into the public eye for the first time in a long time? And do we as a society need to be more open minded about second chances in situations like these?
First and foremost, I want to say that I want to direct people to racer.com. Go read Marshall Pruitt's article titled Vips' Road to Redemption. Starts with RLL. I think it's a very insightful piece, and I encourage everyone to read it, not just the headline. If you look on social media, you can tell who only read the headline and didn't read the article. Yeah, because Marshall actually had some really insightful things and some comments from Vips that I thought was very, very interesting. I think first and foremost, carrying himself into the public eye, he really needs to show that he truly learned from, saying a racial slur that's offensive to me and others in the Black community. Show us that he's truly learned from what he did. And I would hope that would be genuine instead of, just trying to pretend like you've learned something and, just long enough to pass and get by. But after reading this article by Marshall Pruitt, it really seems like Juri Vips and his representatives have really taken steps to try to put him on a better path. Vips said that he's taken, like racial sensitivity training and all of that. He took one course in the UK when he was still over there. And then when he came to America, they said Rahal Letterman Lanigan race and enrolled him in a sensitivity training program here in the United States. So he's had two different programs. And I definitely think that is a step in the right direction. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are not going to be too happy to see Juri Vips enter the IndyCar paddock, as we've already seen with some comments online. Yeah, I guess you can say that Juri Vips is basically getting the Santino Ferrucci treatment, because after Santino Ferrucci left Formula 2, I guess this is how these situations are different. Almost immediately after Santino Ferrucci had his incident in F2, he almost immediately come over here and raced in the IndyCar series. But Juri Vips, took some time away from being in competition, took these sensitivity programs, and now he's racing in IndyCar. I guess the difference here, like Vips had a lot more time passing than Santino for Ferrucci did. But yeah, it's going to be very hard for him. I'm sure this weekend at Portland National Raceway, people are going to be asking him about it. I'm sure the Rahal representatives are probably going to be preparing him to answer those questions and how to answer them, because we all know he's coming into the paddock with the black eye, and a lot of people, like you were saying, Esha, like as a society, we don't really see a lot of people open-minded about second chances in situations. I think you have to take those on a case-by-case basis on who deserves a second chance versus who's not. But with Juri Vips, it may surprise some people, but I'm actually going to give him the benefit of the doubt that I'm going to hope that he's changed, that he's serious about learning why you should never say the N-word in any type of situation, and that he's going to become a better person because of this incident. But in the future, if he says that word again, then for me, like it's a no-go anymore. So I would, in this situation, I would be willing to give him a second chance until he proves me otherwise.
Thank you for bringing that up, Kobe. I must confess I haven't read the Marshall Pruitt article yet. I certainly will after we get off the air here. So I won't comment on that because I haven't read the article, and I'm smarter than some people on social media who think that they can just see a headline and automatically know what people have to say. So I will hold on that here. And I echo Alex's statement as well. Well said, Kobe. I want to talk about Kyle Larson real quick, because I will tell you that there are people out there that think Kyle Larson should still be suspended by NASCAR to this day. I feel like if Kyle Larson wanted to, he could have rushed through the sensitivity training, rushed through the road to recovery as quickly as possible. And I guarantee you it may have been a start and park level truck team. Somebody would have given him an opportunity to come back maybe as early as the late summer months of 2020. But Kyle didn't do that. Kyle spent some time. He wasn't completely away from the racetrack because he was doing some dirt racing for his own team and his own program. But he spent the time to educate himself, to make sure he was going through the process in the correct manner, and make sure he was making it clear to everybody that he was sincere in becoming a better person and learning why what he did was wrong and making sure that it never happens again. And Kyle today is one of the most popular, most successful drivers in the Cup Series. He's a Cup Series champion. Some people consider him one of the best racing drivers in the world right now. Now, Juri Vips has a long way to go to catch somebody like Kyle Larson in terms of on-track performance here. So it's understandable that this situation, while I'm not negating how serious it is, obviously that word should never be said by anybody in any context anywhere, and that includes Juri Vips just as much as it includes Kyle Larson. But the reality of the situation is Juri Vips in Formula 2 is not nearly as big of a stage as Kyle Larson is in the NASCAR Cup Series. So Juri Vips, I think, has been able to stay out of the spotlight a little bit more. And again, maybe there are some answers in the Racer article by Marshall Pruitt, like you mentioned, Kobe. I confess I haven't read it yet, so I won't speculate or anything, but I'm just going to be honest. I haven't heard a lot of Juri Vips since the incident happened. So from my perspective, what would I like to see Juri Vips do? I would like to see Juri Vips make a clear commitment and show that he's made a clear commitment already to becoming a better person and learning from his mistakes. And if he does that, and if he proves that he's sincere, I have no problem with him getting a second chance, and let's see what he can do in an IndyCar here in the United States of America, the land of second chances in many respects. I have no problem with that. And I do think we as a society have to, while taking these incidents seriously and making sure that we forgive but we don't forget, time has passed. Juri Vips, if he's taking the time away to better himself, let's see what he can do. And let's give him that second chance. As you mentioned, Kobe, if he does it again or does something similar again, that's a completely different conversation that we have to have. But as of right now, I have no problem with Juri Vips getting this 2-race deal, as long as he shows he's sincere, because I think his off-the-track road to redemption is just as important as the on-track one is.
Yeah, and by looking at the optics of this situation, it certainly looks a lot better for Juri Vips than it did for Santino Ferrucci. Like I said, Santino basically rushed over to IndyCar as soon as his F2 program ended, but Juri Vips has kind of kept a low profile, stayed out of the spotlight, and he's quietly worked behind the scenes with these sensitivity programs and learning why this word, the N-word, is so offensive to, as I said, to myself and many others in the Black community. And in Marshall Pruitt's article, Juri said that he really thought that the N-word was just a swear word and that it didn't really, that it didn't mean what it actually means. So he said that was just basically ignorance on his own part, and he felt remorseful for saying that word. Now that he knows what it meant, he would have never said that on Twitch if he knew what he knows now back then. But certainly, I agree with you about us as society. I'm sure at some point in our lives, we make foolish mistakes, do some really stupid things, and we end up getting a second chance most of the time. But if every time we made a mistake, we never got a second chance or got canceled and all of that, none of it, like, what would the world be? It would just be an even bigger mess if we got knocked down every single time we made a mistake. And like I was saying, if Juri Vips goes out there and it shows that he's done all the right things, carries himself well on and off the track, like you said, Ben, I have no problem with him racing in the IndyCar series. I'm sure a lot of other people will feel differently, as we've seen on social media, but certainly curious to hear what you all think in the chat room about this situation with Juri Vips.
And Kobe, just to bounce off that one more time, based on one of the things that you just said there, I think that and again, not defending the action at all, but what Juri Vips would have to say there, I'll take your word for it, in terms of just thinking of that as just another swear word, that's an indictment on our education system and how we as a society are raising young people all around the world, that they don't know why that word is different and the deep racist history of it. I think that Juri Vips saying that and coming out, and again, I'm not defending his use of it in the slightest, but if he were to say it again or do something similar again with the knowledge now of what that means and having admitted that he's educated himself and now knows why it's so serious, then I think it's infinitely harder, exponentially harder, if not impossible, to come back from that and get a third chance. Juri Vips making that comment, saying what he had to say and going through a road to recovery, no problem with him getting a second chance in IndyCar. But again, I think he has to prove that he's sincere in order to win the fans back over.
Yeah, definitely, Kobe and Ben. I agree with both of the points that you guys brought up. I think he definitely does deserve a second chance. And as Kobe mentioned before, if he does bring up the word again, then at that point, obviously, it would be a real issue because he has been educated at this point about it.